Welcome, fellow watch lovers. Today we're looking at the Pagani design PD-1671, which is a Black Bay homage mixed maybe with a little bit of the Pelagos. First, let's talk about the specifications. We have a slightly domed top hat style sapphire crystal that provides just a little bit of distortion as you angle it. We have an aluminum insert on these, which goes well with the vintage aesthetics of a Black Bay. We have loomed snowflake hands and loomed indices. We have an exposed date complication that is non-color matched. We have a very nice textured dial, which is definitely different than what a Black Bay has. It plays very nicely in the light, and honestly, I think it's a pretty nice feature and a good choice for a deviation from creating an actual clone. The other stylistic choice on these that's maybe a little bit different and controversial would be having the indices as squares, which is much more like the Pelagos model instead of the Black Bay model. I think there's plus and minuses to doing it this way. The pluses being it's nice, different illumination, gives you something different in your watch collection. The minuses is obviously being that it doesn't feel quite as much like the Black Bay if that's the exact look you're after. We have a stainless steel case. We have brushed top lugs, brushed sides, and the chamfer on here is polished. And there's a good, nice, clean transition between each of those. On the bracelet, we have brushed center and outer links, and it's you can see there's some faux riveting going on. The side of the bracelet is polished, as well as the side of the clasp, and the rest of it is basically brushed. The links, as you might be able to see, they're technically 5 pieces. The outer links are, very small little pieces, holding together the bracelet, and these are screw-in pins. I will say that one thing to be careful with on this model would be those being a little bit loose and potentially coming out. I would recommend using Loctite. I've heard of more than one case where the bracelet actually came off with someone not taking those extra steps that you might want to do on these. Maybe the screws are not to the best tolerances, or they just came kind of loose from the factory. So definitely be careful of that when you're about to wear it and resize it and things of that nature. We have a 2-pusher clasp here, the solid milled clasp, the mineral crystal display back displays the Seiko NH35 movement, which has hacking hand winding as well as the bi-directional rotator for automatic winding, and we claimed a water resistance of 100 meters. On the bracelet, we do have 3 micro adjustments. 4 or 5 would have been nice here. And then we have the pressed but stainless steel diver's extension, which honestly I don't think provides any real value on a watch like this. But you can snap it shut and it gets out of the way. Now these do have hacking and hand winding with the NH35A movement, and there's a nice characteristic pop on all of these when that pops out to hand wind it, and then you can stop the time, and very nice smooth movement to actually set the time. Of course, we're going to note on all of these models, we do have this red color crown tube. Many people have complained about that on the blue dial and face watch, as there's no other matching red colors anywhere on the watch. Obviously, it matches quite well here with the maroon red dial. certainly no objections there. And I think it also fits in fine with this model because we do have red on the triangle and the pip. The bezel on these feels very nice at this price point. Nice and smooth with no back play. And these seem to line up pretty well across each of these that I have. Now, in terms of the comparison to the Black Bay 58, which is what they end up kind of talking to in reference to this model, I've mentioned some of the dial changes on this. The other thing to definitely note related to the Black Bay 58 is this is a much larger watch than the actual 58. The specifications are much closer to something like the Black Bay Heritage, where we are dealing with a larger case size, larger case diameter, and some rather substantial thickness and weight to the piece. Now these are sized for my 7.5-inch wrist, but give you an idea of the weight because this is certainly a significant, hefty watch. This is an aftermarket NATO strap, but to give you an idea of how much weight that the bracelet itself takes up, that will give you some perspective on that. If you like wearing NATO straps, certainly a great option on this watch, and I think these watches can go with a large variety of strap options. Now we are looking at a 42 millimeter diameter on these. If you want to replace the strap, I think you're really looking at a 22 millimeter NATO to fit these well. The case thickness is certainly a consideration here. We are looking at nearly 15 millimeters, 14.88 by this measurement. Technically, the actual lug to lug is really the real distance we're looking at here for the largest measurement, and that is right around 50 millimeters. Now, this particular Pagani design watch was the one that really started the collection for me in terms of really wanting to see what Pagani design can do. This felt like a substantial step up. Quality, design, and all that from other budget watches that I was looking at started really making me take budget watches more seriously, as this really seemed to compare favorably to much more expensive watches. I hope you found this review helpful, and please like and subscribe if you like this kind of content.